This is a lunch and learn. So each week we will be doing this relevant topics. So we welcome you, and we're very glad you're here today to be a part of this lunch and learn. I have my healthy cocktail which has a tablet called Vitalized Immunity that has 16 oranges. It's also April 1st. Isn't that fun? And I thought this slide was very funny. If your kids are in the house, what you could do is gather them around you and say, guess what, kids? We decided that we're going to sell the house because we don't want to be in this sick environment, and see what their response is. I think that it might totally freak them out. So happy Fool's Day to each of you. Okay, why doesn't that want to move? Let's see. All right, as we go forward, we have different speakers who'll be sharing information, and so I'm going to turn this over to a friend of mine who I've worked with closely for well over 40 years. So Carolyn Whiteman from the Florida Keys. Carolyn, you have to unmute yourself.
Much technology in front of us. Thanks, Joanne, and thanks to everyone. You know, I think that what is so energizing about this kind of opportunity right now is that people are connected with things that they trust. That's really what people are looking for. And as we pay attention to the things that we trust, I think we also choose to reach out to people who are our friends and colleagues, maybe people that we don't always intersect with, or maybe Joanne, like your yoga instructor, you know, like the Pilates studio, like the places that we go, people that we see routinely, but we don't really connect with. I think this is an opportunity to do this. So I like to think that this is like we're sitting around our dining room table, or we've met at coffee at the local coffee shop, just to be able to say hello to each other. And I think one of the things that is so valuable now is that many conversations that we have with people today that we might have had 3 weeks ago are completely different. 3 weeks ago, if we had conversations with people about protecting your immune system, or what are you going to do to sustain yourself financially, or are you well enough connected with, do you have a circle of friends that you really enjoy? I think many people, that just kind of goes over the top of their head. It wasn't a relevant conversation. And I think what's happening now is that we are, we're actually choosing a more powerful focus on some things that may not have been so, we may not have thought were so relevant before. And so we're not only letting go of some of the things that were the routines, now we're putting new routines in place. My goodness, you get up at, Joanne and I were on a call this morning, we couldn't remember what day it was. I mean, you know, some of those routines have just really changed. And so as we let go of some old ideas, also take in some new ones, like technology, like this, which is, you know, maybe it's not comfortable, but it's something we're starting to get better at. And we learn to reach out. Sometimes it's with, you know, our teenage kids or something, or grandkids, or the kids across the street. You know, set your laptop outside and say, hey, would you bring my camera up, or something like that. So I think that's really what we're doing. And I really appreciate the opportunity for us to all be together right now, and maybe refocus on some things that have a new level of meaning to us.
Most definitely. You know, it's like the birthday party that Julie Keating had to give her mother at a distance and virtually, even though they live right near each other. She's in an assisted senior apartment complex that they couldn't go visit her. So we're doing these things all virtually now. So it's really taking the time to get a little bit more creative in terms of how we reach out. I know Lee had sent me a women leaders connected email that are communicating great messages and thoughts with each other. Another friend sent me some other things that of how can we connect, how can we improve people's lives, how can we empower people today, and especially make them feel better. And so with that, and my computer doesn't necessarily want to move my slides very quickly. So with that, Carolyn, one of the things I talked about was our immunity complex, and we'll be discussing health-related things that we can eat and drink that will help build your immunity system. So would you just share a little bit about, for those that don't understand or know the Shaklee difference, of which we've been consuming these products for a number of years, you want to just share a little bit about the Shaklee difference?
Sure. I think that what I like to say is there are two qualities that I look for, and then I believe people that are my colleagues look for. And those qualities in things that we consume and things that are around us, I want things that are, first of all, safe. And secondly, I want things that work. And how do we know that? Because we've all become so distracted by, my gosh, we pick a label and it says this and we don't know what it means. Certainly one of the terms that is so often used is the term organic. And we know what we think we want it to mean, but I also think back to high school chemistry when organic chemistry meant carbons and hydrogen. And if it's carbon, is that something that I necessarily want to be consuming? And yet that's organic. And so when we look at labels, I think we want to be really thoughtful about who's putting that label in there and what does it mean. And that to me is one of the things that's so valuable about what we call the Shaklee difference, because the Shaklee company really talks about being beyond organic. And that is the level of screening, the level of testing that they do, so that when we see something on a label or in a product, we know that, I mean, thinking about 100,000 quality tests per year, which is way beyond the requirements of any regulatory agency. 350 tests for contaminants, pesticides, and so on. It's like their standards have been so high for so long that it gives me the sense, when I say what are the qualities that I'm looking for in a product, I want that product that works, and I also want that product that's safe. Well, how do I know? Well, this to me is one of the real keys of what I say is the Shaklee difference. And when people say, oh, but I've got another label that says this, what I say to them is, look, I hope that they have the same level of integrity and standards that I know the company that I've chosen and the vendor that the products that I'm choosing to use, I hope that means the same thing, because heaven knows we've got a world out there that needs all of what we've got. I don't know about other brands. All I know is this is what I know about the Shaklee difference. And that's why I've been a consumer for, as many decades as we have, as long as I've known Joanne and so many of the others of us. That's how we chose the company that we choose to consume our products with, and that has the level of confidence that we'll give it to our grandparents and we'll give it to our grandkids.
Thanks, Carolyn. Now to share you, I'm going to turn this over to a friend of mine that I've known since 9th grade, Pam Budner.
Thanks, Joanne. So here we are in a totally different time than it was a month ago or even 3 weeks ago. Every day shifts. And we're talking about having our groceries, really, we go shopping. We're trying to shop just once a week. And not everything is available when we go to the grocery store. And we have to be very, very discerning about what we're going to put in our cart because of our times right now. And I love this slide because it's really sometimes hard to make healthy food choices in the normal world, but in today's world, the new reality that we're in, it is even tougher, because when you're stressed or when you haven't thought about the meal planning that in a way that you usually do, and the availability of going out to eat is no longer an option, it might be easy to fall by the wayside and go for sugar when your blood sugar is down, have a donut or have a cookie or have something just because you're hungry and you haven't thought about, what's the best thing for you to eat right now, or you don't want to take the time to prepare something. So all these challenges are with us in a normal world, and in today's world, they're even more heightened. So it's tough. One of the things I have always loved is having a smoothie. When I was living in New York many years ago, I even worked in a juice bar and I made smoothies for people. And I think that's where I learned to love making smoothies. And what I'd like to just mention today is that we have available some great protein products that really, really help your immune system. And you might say, well, why is protein important? Protein is really a very, very important resource for enhancing immunity because it helps the cells that operate the immune system. The amino acids that are found in protein are really the building blocks of all the body cells, and that includes your immune system cells. One of the things I love about the shakes that you see here, and we have some other protein powders available as well, is that I can throw some milk or some water or some juice in that blender there and make a great smoothie. And that's what I did for lunch today. Here's my green smoothie. And what I made today is a cup of, I used almond milk today. I made 2 scoops of our vanilla life shake. So it's got everything in it, so it can be a complete meal. It's got some leucine in it, which helps your body to not store fat, get rid of the fat. And I put in a fistful of baby spinach. I don't measure, I just grab fresh spinach, put it in there, chop up a green apple, and put in a cup of frozen peaches. And I put it all in the blender and whiz it up. And if it's a little too thick, you can add some water. Or, you can get really creative. It makes a delicious tasting smoothie. I know Jeanette and Rick like frozen mango. If you don't have spinach, you can put in celery, or you can put in parsley or whatever green stuff you have that you want to throw in there, and it makes such a great lunch. I have it every day. So let's go to the next slide and talk about another great way that you can enjoy your lunch, and that's with the snack bar. Today I'm going to have with my smoothie a peanut butter snack bar. And again, it's really so important. If you want to avoid, you have the donut and you have the apple and you're going, well, which is good, which is not good. If your body has enough protein and you have your smoothie, or you have the 9 to 10 grams of protein that is in just a little bar like this, your blood sugar stays up. And when your blood sugar is up and you feel balanced, you're not going to have those sugar cravings. So it's going to be easy to turn away from the donut or the cookie or the sweet thing. And that's why I love our snacks and our powder so much. So if you don't know about these, make sure you talk to the person who invited you and learn a little bit more and taste a little bit more. I always carry one in my bag.
And with that kind of lunch, with the snack bar and with your smoothie, how many grams of protein are you getting?
That's a really good question. I would say, well, in my peanut butter bar, there's 10 grams of protein in this little bar, and fiber. Fiber is the other thing that makes you feel full. And I think if I add in my milk and the protein powder, that's probably another 25 grams or so. So I'm getting about 35 grams of protein just in this one lunch.
But without the calories too. So if you looked at
it's low calorie. Yeah, it's low calorie. It sustains you.
Exactly. It cuts those cravings, which I know, boy, I can have a sweet tooth when I'm hungry, and blood sugar level, you get irritable. That's why it's important to keep those protein levels high and your body fed properly, so the stress factor goes down, because when your sugar goes off, you definitely get more stressed.
Let me just add one more thing, Joanne, before you move to the next slide. That you just made a really good point. I find too, a lot of people, including myself, if I skip lunch and I get to 4 o'clock, I'm ravenous. So 4 o'clock, is another good time to have a protein shake to get your blood sugar back up, so that you feel satisfied and that you don't feel like eating a whole sleeve of Ritz crackers and cheese before your dinner. This really works.
We now know your go-to.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is, when I was a yoga teacher and a lot of my vegetarian students, when I introduced them to a good soy protein source or a whey protein source, boy, did they notice the difference, because it was a complete protein. It had all the amino acids in balance and in proportion. So it's like a meal that's actually balanced for you, which is so important and critical for that blood sugar level. I get this next slide, which is so great. I don't know, some of you may be too young for I Love Lucy, but if you want to see something to make you laugh, what has made you laugh this past week? I have had some really good chuckles with some of the phone conversations I've had and with people and mistakes we've made. And Lucy on the right, that was a really good one that makes you laugh. And laughter is important, as we all know. Look at Vitameta Vegemin one. Our shake tastes so much better than that, so you don't have to worry about that. But what makes you happy? What makes you laugh? What relaxes you? Because self-care is so critical right now. It's giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. Even though we're all quarantined and we're not running around and hectic and doing all the things that we might do in a day, we're more stressed. So think about what relaxes you. I happen to have been a meditator for many, many years. My son Billy sent me a beautiful audio link that helps increase your endorphins. So I listen to that every morning before I get up, and it uplifts me. I'm not out there jogging, never have been a jogger, but what I will do is I'll go and walk my dog in the park, and that I actually have an environment that looks like that when I walk my dog, so it's so beautiful. But what makes you happy? It's critical that we start putting those thoughts into our mind and into our day, even as we're here quarantined and not able to get out and about. So please think about it right now. Maybe write down what makes you happy. Give yourself 2 or 3 different things and say, each day I'm going to do something that makes me happy. Each day I'm going to do one thing that will give me some relaxation. Yesterday I took a lovely bath. I sat back, I had an audio book on, and I just allowed myself to listen to a book that I was really enjoying. So take that time for yourself, and maybe make sure that you do. Make it a priority and not, oh, I'm too busy, I have to run after the kids, I have to do this, that, and the other thing. Think about yourself first, because when you're empowered, you then empower other people. What makes me happy? This is the happy vitamin. It's called B complex. B complex is a stress buster, and it's a water soluble. B vitamins are water soluble, which means you have to add them to your diet every day, otherwise you don't have them. And they really, my daughter Bridget, who's a high stress gal, just as I am, the B complex makes you happy, and you need to replenish it every day. Our B complex, I remember being told, you don't see a vitamin B bush, B1 bush, B2 bush. What you really need is the B vitamins, all 8 essential B vitamins together to support your energy, your cardiovascular health, cell renewal. It helps metabolize energy from carbohydrates, fat, and protein. This has biotin in it. A lot of companies don't put biotin in their product because it's more expensive than silver. So B complex, I like to say, is my happy vitamin, and that's my go-to product, again, because I don't store it. So I've used it every day now for over 40 years because I find it so critical. There's so many things that we can do to make ourselves less stressed, and this is just one element. And last week we shared some other things that were helpful in stress. We shared some other self-care items, and we'll be doing this each week and adding different things that might help you. We're going to have Sue-Ann Repine. She's a dental hygienist who's not going to work right now, so we have the good fortune of having her speak about a critical nutrient called vitamin D. Sue-Ann?
Yeah, thank you, Joanne, and happy to see everybody virtually. Vitamin D, also known as the sunshine vitamin, has come into the news recently as being very beneficial. Always has been beneficial, but we're in a critical time, and I'll explain shortly how this vitamin is just so important to your overall immune health. Being the sunshine vitamin, right now in Germantown, Maryland, we don't have a whole lot of sun. The body does convert and make a certain amount of vitamin D, but because of pollution and sunscreens that people put on, limited sun exposure, it's estimated that about 50% of the adult population, that's not taking in children. And I know my grandson being born was also put on vitamin D supplements. So doctors are recommending, even as early as infancy, how important this vitamin is. What I recommend is everybody get a simple blood test. Make sure that when your doctor orders a blood test that that's included in, because they do know that this is an important one to know about. And a good level to be is between 50 and 60, or 50 and 70 nanograms per milliliter. And this will give you an optimal health. That's kind of a general. For some people, they might want to be a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. That you really need to discuss with your doctor. Depends on your age, your overall health, etc. Right now in the news, which Joanne has greatly put this slide up from Dr. Frieden, is with this coronavirus. It is a respiratory virus. It's a droplet, which is why I have been out of my dental office for 3 weeks, because we create tons of droplets. So we are put on lockdown for a while, and who knows when we're going to go back. But I'm very thankful I've been taking vitamin D, because I was at a higher risk. So doctors, and Dr. Frieden and also Dr. Fauci, who we're seeing on television every day, is stressing the importance of vitamin D. And that's because it's important for anti-inflammatory and also immune activity, especially with the lungs. And when we're talking lung health, we're not talking only corona, we're talking asthma, COPD, respiratory infections like bronchitis. So anybody that has those kinds of things definitely want to be taking extra vitamin D. D3 is the most active form, so that's what you want to look for in your supplement. Shaklee, of course, does that. And vitamin D works with calcium. So calcium and vitamin D, every vitamin has a mineral it works with. So I recommend you take a calcium that has vitamin D in it, also magnesium, and then supplement with the appropriate amount of a separate vitamin D3 product. And Shaklee, because of the quality and the purity, as a health professional, I feel very confident recommending their supplements.
So Anne, what amount of vitamin D is usually recommended? Because I've heard that sometimes it's low, that if the daily recommended allowances are usually low. What's being recommended to increase it now, or have you heard anything about that?
That's a good question, Joanne, and it really depends on the person. I personally take about 4 to 5 of the Shaklee D.
Wow.
And part of it is because, and I'm also, in addition to the lung issues, seasonal affective disorder, which is huge because lack of sun. It's huge right now because we're all isolated, and depression, while it doesn't have to be a chronic diagnosed depression, people are depressed, people are anxious, people don't know when they can get back to whatever their regular schedule is. I take that amount for my seasonal affective disorder per my chiropractor, and it makes a world of difference. What I've heard from my doctor friends is usually 1,000 to 5,000 on a daily basis. Some doctors will recommend a prescription like once a month. And that's something where personally you really have to get, like we talked about earlier, a baseline of what is your vitamin D. If you're below 20, 25, that's very low and you need to get it up, because there are other health benefits besides just lung health and seasonal affective disorder. There's bone health, which is huge. So,
yeah, that's
but usually, I like to think 1,000 to 5,000 per day.
Okay, and I know every time I go for my annual physical, my vitamin D level is checked. So I never really asked what it was. So it's a good idea for me to ask what it is, although we're not going to the doctor now, but I know that I take enough with my supplements that ensure it, because it's really hard to eat. I mean, how many of us know the choices that we need to get the right amount of B, a full array of complex or vitamin D, and how much can we eat in order to get that amount? That's why I always turn to supplementation. And we call Shaklee is food supplements. That's why I gravitated to them, because it's, kind of food in tablet form. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn this over now to, we'd like to keep it, the program on time and together with what we want to accomplish. And we have so many messages that we want to share today with you. So we're going to move it along past the nutritional segment into having Carolyn Whiteman share a little bit about, actually, we're going to do the interview first. So I'm going to turn this over to to Carolyn Whiteman. She's going to interview Maria Cloutier, who's in Manassas, Virginia. She's a woman that I met through Donna Titus. Thankfully, Donna introduced us. She's a wife, mother, grandmother, and businesswoman. So Carolyn, I'm turning it back to you.
Great, thanks, Joanne. And Maria, you're there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great, great. Well, I think it's nice to just remember we're sitting around the dining room table together. And so I think it's nice to just find out a little bit more about how did you get here, Maria? Like, what brought you into this? So start us back when you were first introduced to entrepreneurship. As I understand, you were in New York and working in New York corporate or something.
I was. I worked at Parade Magazine, and I loved my New York City corporate job, but then I got married and started a family and truly wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. As you can see from the photographs, family is very important to me. And a total stranger said, have you ever thought about having your own business? And I really had not, but I thought, if it's not illegal or immoral, I'm willing to look at it if it gives me the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom. So I started my business in New York City and quit my corporate job.
Wow. So what were some of the things, obviously, have you ever thought about having your own business? That gives a huge array of possibilities. What was it that attracted you to be connected with Shaklee, which I know is what your business has been? What were the qualities that attracted you to Shaklee?
I think at the top of that list was the fact that it was something that I could do from home, so that I could be my children's primary caregiver. And I just wanted to be there for those special milestones, the first word and starting to walk and just being able to feed them. I wanted to be a mommy. So that was number one. The other one was the fact that if I worked hard, I could make as much money as I wanted to. In corporate America, I was very familiar with the glass ceiling, and I didn't want that. I'm a pretty responsible person. I know what needs to get done. I know bills are coming, and I know that I need to create significant income before the bills come. And I wasn't willing to just get by. I really, really wanted a lifestyle that I was not used to, but I wanted to raise my children in a much nicer lifestyle.
Beautiful. Now, there was something in the Shaklee specifically, because I know you've had very strong focus on products and health and fitness and everything. What was it that brought you then specifically to Shaklee?
Initially, I thought to myself, well, these are vitamins. Everybody needs vitamins. I knew that already. And I thought, well, if they're vitamins and I'm going to help people get healthier, that's a great thing. But in the back of my mind, I really didn't know that these were going to be extraordinary. So what I did is I thought, well, if I'm going to sell these products, I need to use them first. And so I used the products as I was evaluating the business. And I went to a whole bunch of meetings to get educated. And within 3 months, I started to see health benefits in my life. Now, I didn't walk out of a wheelchair, but my hair started growing. My sister thought I'd gotten a perm when in fact I hadn't. I used to have very fine hair, and all of a sudden my hair was really healthy looking. And the biggest thing though, I'd had knee pains for most of my life since about 5 or 6. And now I'm in my early 30s, and those knee pains were pretty regular. And all of a sudden those pains were gone. And I did my own very unscientific experiment. I just thought, well, what changes have I made in the last month or two? And it was Shackley. And I thought, well, I need to know, is it these products? And so I stopped taking them, and within a week or so, my knees would hurt.
Yep.
And I would start taking them again, and within a week or so, the pain would go away. And so I thought, wow, this is something else. And initially I thought, well, I'll just do this until the children go to school. But by the time the children were school age, I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to leave Shackley. I'd had a lot of benefits, and now my customers started having results. So I was hooked probably within the first month of the Shackley difference. And I have pictures of me and people that I know in close age, and some people say that they look like my mother. So I am a living, breathing testimony of the effect that the quality of our products is so phenomenal. I love all the science and the purity and the beyond organic. I just love that, because if you don't have your health, you don't really can't enjoy much of anything else either. And so I treasure my health, and therefore I want to share it with other people.
That's beautiful, Maria. One last little question, since we're around the dining room table now, and I'm sitting in Florida Keys and you are in Virginia. Haven't there been some geographical changes that have happened with you that have kept you together with your family, but have also allowed you to move your business?
Actually, I'm kind of like the poster child of how flexible a Shackley business can be. As much as I love my corporate job, if I had quit, or I did quit, when I quit that job, I had to start something else. I had to start all over again. But because I started my Shackley business in New York, and then I just decided I wanted a different environment to raise my children, other than like a city environment and all its challenges. I moved 2,000 miles away to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my business was 100% with me. I didn't have to start all over again. And I thought I was going to be there for the rest of my life. But you know, every time we turn a corner, life has an interesting challenge for us. And my beautiful daughter that you see focused up there with her family, she met this beautiful young man who lived in England. He was from England. They met in college in France and in Paris. And when they were both college students. And so a few years ago, about 10 years ago, they decided to live in the US. But they said, Mom, we really want to live in the US, not England, but we would love to be close by. And so I said, I'm there. And so 2 years ago, I moved here to be close to family. And I haven't lost any customers. I haven't lost my connections to my business builders, to my sales leaders. And then I get an excuse to go back pretty regularly. My goal is to go back about every 3-4 months and work with my team and experience what I love about New Mexico. It's called the Land of Enchantment for a great reason.
Maria, that's a great story. That's a great story. And it really leads us, Joanne, to the slide before that we were talking about.
Yeah, and
that is,
yep.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The other good thing too is your daughter can inherit the business. The business that you've created is can be inheritable.
Absolutely. And she's now joined me because when she and her brother were 18, I sponsored them under me, and I bought products for each of them and built a nice little business. And now my daughter is growing that business and will soon be a director.
Beautiful.
Oh, we have to celebrate. Well, good.
Beautiful.
So let's move along, Carolyn.
Well, when we look at this slide and think of Maria's story and think about what we've talked about up to this point, isn't our self-care connected with a lot of special people in our lives, like the ones who cut our hair and the ones who are our fitness instructors and the ones who are our massage therapists and the ones who are our dental hygienists and obviously the people who are our teachers and coaches And if we think now about the changes economically or the changes in the economy that have happened as a result of the changes that we're living with now, those people have their fabulous skills that are so important to us, and they are absolutely denied the opportunity to be able to work. So when we think about the values that we have in our business of being healthcare professionals, of being entrepreneurs, I just feel a real passion for being able to reach out to people in those professions who are so important to us, and to say, what would it be like if you were, when hopefully you can go back to those skills, which we all need, you know, take care of us. What would it be like to add to your profession something that could create some ongoing income, so that someone like Maria's life be able to represent something that doesn't have to be dependent upon our having the hands-on relationship. Does that help, Joanne? Lost Joanne. I think so much.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
muted. So
Yeah.
yeah, so many people are without income right now. For example, Sue Ann Repine, who is a dental hygienist, they're locked down. They can't go to work. And she's had a part-time hobby little business because she's been and it's not so little, because she's introduced good health and nutrition to a lot of people because she cared so much about it. So Shackley's now giving her an income stream, which she wouldn't have if she hadn't played with it for all these years. And there are people now that, you know, their income is stopped completely. So we want to let everybody know that there are opportunities. We are having some really exciting times going on with Shackley right now, in terms of what Roger Barnett, the owner of Shackley and CEO, is providing us, which leads me to the next slide, about what's coming up and what we have to offer. Our mission is, our big picture, and it has been for me, and what really got me involved in health and wellness. My dad died of obesity at 55 years old. I knew I wasn't healthy, I wasn't treating myself well, and that's when I really got into yoga, was taught and trained by a high-end yoga teacher who was a purist, and that's how I was first introduced to Shackley, which was, our health mission is to transform sick care to well care. That's so critical. You know, you see what's happening with the hospitals, and people who don't take care of themselves get really sick. So we teach wellness. We teach how can we keep well care going. But we also have a wealth mission, and I was searching for a way to earn an income without having to have a corporate job or a 9-to-5 job. And I thankfully fell in love with what we have to offer. It fit all my personal philosophy of the golden rule and helping people, but it was able to, as Maria mentioned, there was no glass ceiling. I come from an entrepreneurial family, so we can transform financial distress to financial security for people. And one of the wonderful things that's happening right now is we have a corporate call coming up that is open to anyone that is interested in looking for an income solution. And that will be on Saturday, April 4th. And all the times are listed there, and there's a Zoom link for it. This will be a Zoom link, and it will be recorded. It won't be telephone available, but it's an open Zoom, and I'm inviting everyone that I know that is distressed now financially, because I care enough about them to want to help them through this crisis, especially if they have an interest in health and having a mission to serve others. It's not, quote unquote, a sales position. It's really a health mission serving other position of what we can do to share a message and educate people, and then people have a choice of whether or not they're interested or not interested. So that's what we represent, and that's what we want to offer anyone that's out there interested in in improving their own situation, either health-wise or financial-wise. That's one of the reasons why we started this Lunch and Learn Wellness series. This is pretty much for us wellness educators who've been involved a long time with wellness educating. Many of us have years of background in studying classes and courses. So what we'd like to do is, can you see, I don't know if you can see this slide. Susie says my video is off.
We can see the slide, we can't see you.
Okay, well, anyway, the Lunch and Learn is grab your lunch and join us in the comfort of your home every Wednesday at 1 p.m., same room, same stuff. And we do have recordings of it. So we can now, what we'll do is we'll turn off the recording of this and we'll open up the lines for everybody to ask questions,